This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty at the Fort Hall School of Government to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil. And for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test. Two, that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. The gossip has to be ground truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists. We are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free. On today's show, we will discuss the ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions and ideas that made us feel stupid. Narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are. Narratives based on conjecture history and those that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome AX and CS.
Asante.
Hi guys. Alright, so we at the Fort Hall School of Government often say that politics is all about interest. After all, and in the words of Henry John Temple, there are no permanent alliances, only permanent interests. And according to Peter Kagwanja, these interests are breaking up the hustler wave in the mountain. In his opinion piece for The Nation, entitled Shift from Personalities to Interests, Breaking Hustler Wave in Mount Kenya, Kagwanja argues that the mountain is shifting from a politics of personality to a politics of interest, and that Martha Karua is the face of this new politics. Therefore, today I would like to put his assertions to the test. Is it true that Martha Karua is the face of the new politics of interest in Gema? For any truth to hold, it must pass two tests. The first is articulated by the coherence theory of truth, and the second by the correspondence theory of truth. In order for something to be true under the coherence theory of truth, it must be consistent with our other knowledge. For example, if Kagwanja argues that Karua champions the politics of interest, then this needs to be consistent with our understanding of the politics of interest. The politics of interest begins by asking, what do I want to achieve? As opposed to the politics of personality, which asks, who do I like the most? And based on this understanding, Karua is not the champion of the politics of interest, but a new champion of the politics of personality, a fact admitted by Kagwanja himself. Rather than identifying the interests Karua is capable of realizing, he relies on her experience, her tenacity, and her firm opposition to Ruto. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but aren't these all parts of her personality? Clearly, Kagwanja believes that Karua is the only man capable of fixing William Ruto, and this is why he likes her the most. Therefore, Kagwanja's argument does not hold under the coherence theory of truth. Let us now turn to consider the correspondence theory of truth. In order for something to be true under the correspondence theory, it must be consistent with the facts. Therefore, if, as Kagwanja argues, Martha Karua is the face of the new politics of interest in Mount Kenya, we must ask ourselves if the politics of interest have truly summited the mountain. Now, these politics have not summited the mountain. The mountain is still very much dominated by the politics of personality, as Kagwanja's own hand demonstrates. Not once in his opinion piece does he reference the interests that led to the shift away from the politics of personality. Instead, as with Karua, he relies upon the personalities of the Gema politicians he references. And when he does reference the politics of interest, it is about ODM and not Gema. Therefore, Kagwanja's argument does not hold under the correspondence theory of truth. So, having failed to meet the correspondence and coherence theories of truth, Kagwanja's assertion is therefore not true. Martha Karua is not the face of the new politics of interest in Gema. And in the end, Kagwanja appears to have fallen prey to the trap of seeing things as he is, not as they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, this week, I would like to respond to the Saturday Nation headline story. The headline reads, "The Kibaki Factor in the 2022 Elections." The story hypothesizes that politicians desire to associate themselves with the successors of Kibaki, and this is how they want to make Kibaki a factor in the 2022 election. It would seem like the author and the Fourth Estate at large are trying to rewrite history.
Yeah.
They are manufacturing truth to suit interest and are using Kibaki to do so. Allow me to illustrate this with 2 points. My first point is in the form of a question. What is this apparent Kibaki factor? It is a part of a wider narrative that has been adopted by the Fourth Estate. They romanticize Kibaki as a way of trashing Uhuru.
Indeed.
But when you look at the facts, their track records are incomparable. Allow me to share a few numbers with you. On matters land, 6 million title deeds were issued to Kenyan citizens by the first 3 administrations. This is an average of 120,000 deeds per year. Meanwhile, the Uhuru administration has issued 5.1 million deeds in 8 years.
Yeah.
That's an average of 637,000 plus per year. This is over 5 times what the 3 administrations did combined. On matters health, Kibaki managed to develop 4 renal units. By comparison, the Uhuru administration has managed to build 54 renal units. And with regards to roads, President Kibaki in 10 years built 2,300 kilometers of tarmac roads, while Uhuru has built 11,000 kilometers and counting. This means that Uhuru has built nearly 6 times what Kibaki built and is not done. Seeing the facts laid bare like this, it is clear that the Fourth Estate's infatuation with Kibaki is without legs, eyes, and ears. This leads to my second point. My biggest problem with this article is not about what it said, but rather what it failed to say. The article had the opportunity to compare Kibaki's silent approach after retirement with what Uhuru's will look like post his presidency. And so allow me to briefly use this opportunity to explore this idea. President Uhuru Kenyatta will retire at the age of 60. This will make him the youngest ever retired president in our country's history. By comparison, Kenyatta died in office at the age of 81, Moi retired at the age of 78, and Kibaki retired at the age of 82. For them, their legacies were set in stone. This is not the same for Uhuru. We must remember that at the age of 60, Uhuru's legacy will continue to be written beyond the reaches of his presidency. He will continue to use politics as a means to cement his legacy. But as I conclude, it would seem that, as AX pointed out, this article does not meet the threshold of truth. The writer's suggestion of a Kibaki factor in 2022 is his own personal fear of the risks involved in exponential growth. Uhuru has not feared to do the uncomfortable to achieve his vision. The writer's backward glance cannot offer Kenya the solutions that he suggests. I will close with some words of wisdom from Ecclesiastes 7:10, which says, "Do not say, why were the former days better than these? For it is not from wisdom that you ask this."
And I think a big part of President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy will be the fact that he has laid a foundation for many presidents thereafter will build upon. And that's something quite profound. There are things that have been started during his administration that will take another 10 years to complete, and that's because of the scope, the breadth of the projects he's undertaken. Absolutely. Very ambitious. Can go on and on. But I'd like to shift the conversation a bit and take us on a aeroplane to The Hague. At the tail end of last week, there were significant developments at The Hague, where Paul Gicheru's ICC case went through one of the final pre-trial stages, the pre-trial conference or the status conference. We at the Fifth Estate promised that we would keep tabs on developments in this matter and to also continually apply our minds to their implications. Now, unless you're a stranger in Jerusalem, you know that this matter has the potential to blow wide open the William Ruto case. It is important to remember that Paul Gicheru is accused of offenses against the administration of justice, and specifically for interfering with and corrupting witnesses that had been set to testify against William Ruto during his trial. Presently, all indications are that the ICC deputy prosecutor, Mr. James Stewart, and his team have been able to put together a mountain of evidence against Paul Gicheru. In the face of all this, Paul Gicheru gives the impression of someone who is worried, On 2 occasions, Mr. Paul Gicheru has requested for the status conference to be postponed. The first request was granted, and the status conference was postponed to last Friday, the 24th. A few days earlier, however, on the 17th, Paul Gicheru had also filed a request to temporarily stay the proceedings because he was now seeking to have Judge Maria Samba disqualified from presiding. The reason he wanted Judge Maria Samba off the case was because the defense was afraid of the role that Judge Maria Samba played in the Ruto case, because at the time of investigations, she was a field officer stationed in East Africa, and she assisted investigators from the office of the prosecutor on field missions to Kenya. Judge Maria Samba, however, stated that her role was purely involved in logistics. One can, however, sort of understand why Paul Gicheru is worried. But even so, the court maintained that staying proceedings would be a drastic measure. It wasn't enough to simply say that the case be postponed in the interests of justice, as Paul Gicheru had argued. But one can't help but wonder whether William Ruto is also worried. As things stand, there are at least 12 witnesses expected to testify in the Gicheru case. 6 of these will testify as to how they were corruptly influenced to recant their testimony against Deputy President William Ruto. There will also be testimonies from 3 investigators who will narrate how they investigated the case, an analyst who will give context to the court, and 2 to 3 expert witnesses. There is a possibility of bringing more witnesses currently being investigated and are believed to have been among those who were influenced to recant their evidence. In addition, the prosecution has been permitted to rely on evidence from that case, the William Ruto case. On Tuesday, the 24th of August, Judge Maria Samba ruled that transcripts obtained from several witnesses who testified against William Ruto can be transferred to Paul Gicheru's case. In sum, ICC Deputy Prosecutor James Stewart has stated that the evidence gathered is captured in over 220,000 pages and counting. And the prosecution has further stated that of that, more than 97,800 pages potentially implicate Gicheru.
Amazing.
Paul Gicheru and his defense team, led by Mr. Michael Canavas, have stated that they will need 3 months at least to peruse all the evidence. That's how much it is, which means the trial may likely start in March of next year, quite close to the elections, assuming there are no other efforts to postpone the trial. Ultimately, we cannot yet be certain the extent to which this case will affect the William Ruto case and his path going forward. What we do have a submit in conclusion is the observation that a history written in blood cannot be disguised by lies written in ink.
Powerful words.
Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. See you next Monday. Journalists, you have been put on notice.